Let's talk about the promise and reality of vibe coding. Here is what you were sold. You prompt the agent, it's going to build your app, you deploy it, everything goes well. Now, this usually works for simple demo apps, but the moment you need a real app, something with user data, backend logic, here's what actually happens. Most of these agents are now really good at building functional UIs, but the moment you try to add a fully functional backend, this is where things gets interesting. These systems try to configure the database. Maybe it will pick Supabase, maybe Postgres, but usually they hallucinate an API that does not exist, writes configuration files that are completely wrong. And then there's this whole cycle where the agent is going to try something and it breaks. And eventually you as a developer end up manually debugging the infrastructure issues, which is exactly what you were trying to avoid in the first place. Let me try to break this down and explain why this happens. When your agent is trying to build a front end, whether it's React, HTML, CSS, it's working with well-documented, predictable APIs. There's only one way to set up a React component. These patterns are consistent. But a real application actually needs a functional backend, which is the hardest part still for the AI coding agents, purely because of the complexity of the components that are involved. You usually need a database with proper schema, authentication with OAuth flows, file storage with access policies, and so on. Now, if you try to use an AI coding agent to set all of this up, it's not really dealing with a single consistent patterns. It's dealing with 8 different components, each one of them with their own problems. Now, the question is, what if the backend itself was designed for how agents actually work? This is where today's sponsor, InForge, comes into play. It's a semantic layer between your coding agent and the backend. It's a fully open source Apache 2.0 license, and you can run this entirely self-hosted within a Docker container on your own infrastructure. There are also one-click deployment options available to you. So this is essentially a semantic layer between your agent and your backend, with all the core components that you need for your backend infrastructure. Okay, so let me walk you through a setup process of how to add a fully functional backend to your own applications. Apart from the self-hosted versions of the project, there is also a cloud version. This is the one that we're going to be using in this video. Now, you will need to sign up for an account. They have a free tier that lets you explore all the different capabilities. Now, during the sign up flow, you'll need to create your project. So I'm going to call this CRM. These are the different regions. I am in the West Coast, so we're going to just click on create project. Now, we need to select which IDE we want to use. This is going to be essentially an MCP server. Now, in order to use it, you can either install this in your terminal or CLI based coding agents, or as a VS Code extension. So it has support for almost all the well-known coding agents out there. You can select the IDE of your choice, or you can install this as VS Code extension. We're going to try this in Cursor, but first I want to show you some other features. So here you see all the different tables that your application is going to have. These are the databases, storage. You can enable different types of authentication. Right now, since we haven't added a backend to an app, so we don't see anything here. So let's use a cursor for this project. This is going to open cursor. Okay, so it directly went to my cursor MCP settings. This will essentially install the InForge MCP server in cursor. So we're going to install this. So everything is installed. It has 17 different tools, and now we can start using it. Okay, so now I can tell Cursor to build me a CRM, build me a sales CRM with a Kanban deal pipeline, contact management with profile photos, Google login, real-time updates, and AI-powered follow-up suggestions. Now, here's the interesting part. The agent can actually see what different tools are available on the backend with specific instructions that it can follow. It also knows the metadata of your backend as well, for the tables that it's going to create. So right now it's working through it. Here is going to create all the database schemas. It's also going to include authentication through Google. Okay, so here's what it created. We can actually sign in with Google. All right, we basically have deals and contacts. I can create a new deal. Let's call it prompt 50%. Give it a value of 50. The new deal is created. And now, since I asked it to create a Kanban board, we can actually move everything across if we want, right? So this is a fully functional version of the app itself, but let's see what happens at the backend. So here's our backend. Now on the backend, we can actually go to the visualizer. This is going to give us a high level overview of what exactly is in the backend right now. So at the moment, we have authentication. Right now, you can use email, Google OAuth, or GitHub OAuth. Some of these other ones are disabled. There are 3 different tables. One is for contacts, the other one is for deals, and the third one is activities. And they show how they are interconnected. There is also a storage bucket, which will store all the images or avatars of the users. Now, we can look at the logs, but let me show you. Currently, we have 1 user sign up. These are the tables. So we created a deal, and that shows up here in the deals table. So in real time, it's actually updating your tables. Now we can look at databases. So there are indices, functions, there are row level security policies, and you can also test your SQL queries right in here, which is pretty great. Now for storage, we only have a single avatar storage. We don't have any data in that yet. There is also an integration with AI models. So if you want to use AI in your application, you can connect these LLMs. They're going to be routed directly here, or you could potentially integrate your own API endpoint as a part of your backend. The great thing is that you have everything that you need for a full stack application with fully functional backend. And your coding agent has a full context of how exactly to build that with all the backend components and primitives that you need. Now, the best part is that it's a fully open source project. So if you don't want to use their cloud infrastructure, you can just take the container, self-host it, or they have this single click deploy option on Railway and a platform like Zebra. So you are in full control if you decide to go that route. Now, there are other solutions out there, but they are not fully open source, or you can self-host them. So do check them out and let me know what you think. Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching. And as always, see you in the next one.